Welcome back to Man Down Sports, man. Kendrick Perkins finally said something right. This is like two times in 1 week. Kendrick Perkins had actually said some good stuff, man. If you go follow him on Twitter and see some of the things he said on Twitter around the NBA, he's not saying the crazy stuff he usually say anymore, man. I don't know what's going on with him, but I like this side of Kendrick Perkins. But I mean, I was just digging around and looking at some stuff on YouTube when I ran across Kendrick Perkins. I want to say Malika Andrews, Woj, and I forget the other guy's name. But they was having a conversation about the MVP. And it's funny because it was fresh off a loss that Luka Doncic and the Mavs just had with the Detroit Pistons without Cade Cunningham, who is their star second year player. No Cade Cunningham, just a rookie Jaden Ivey and a couple of other guys went into overtime and lost, got outplayed. And after this loss, that the last 10 games the Mavs have they're 4-6, right? It's just funny how they after watching that game and seeing them be 4-6 for the last 10 games and fall under 500 at 10-11, how they could just seriously sit here and have a MVP discussion for Luka Doncic. And I just can't figure out for the life of me why he's still in the discussion playing below 500 basketball and losing to the Detroit Pistons. And then they had a graphic on the TV that said that the Mavs are the only team in the league who has lost to the bottom three teams in the league this season already. So the three worst teams in the league has already beaten the Mavs. They're below 500. They're dead last in almost every statistical category: assists, rebounds, points for, points against. All of these things are going for them, and yet their star player is still in the MVP discussion. But let me play what Kendrick Perkins said, and then I'll come back and I give you my thoughts on it.
So I guess that begs the question then, Perk, what is the Mavs ceiling as currently constructed?
How much time do I have to dive in on the Mavs and Luka right now? I'm just asking, how much time do I have right now? Because I got a lot to say.
All the time in the world, Perk.
One, we keep saying, okay, cool. Well, we keep talking about, okay, he needs help. And the Mavs, now we realize that they took Jalen Brunson for granted. And all of a sudden, they didn't really need him. They got Luka, and then they took Porzingis for granted. We see what he's doing with the Washington Wizards right now. Okay, so here's the thing. What's next, right? What's next is that can we see the Mavs front office, or can we hold the Mavs front office accountable and say, hey, Luka does need a Robin. He does need a certified two. And here's another thing. I want an apology, okay? I don't care. I know Richard Jefferson is probably somewhere watching this right now, but he has been on my tail for the last couple of days about me not having Luka in my top 5 MVP conversation. And here it is, you go down to Detroit without Cade Cunningham and you lose this game last night. See, here's the problem. I'm not hating on Luka. I think he's an unbelievable talent. He's an awesome talent. He's a showbox. He's everything and more. But when we talk about the MVP conversation, your record can't be 10-11. You can't be sitting at the number 11 spot in the Western Conference. And so now we're looking at it, and I just want to know. I want to ask the panel this. I want to take over for a minute, Malika.
All you.
What is the love affair that everyone has with Luka? Because we don't keep the same energy when it comes down to guys like Trae Young last year, who averaged 29 and 9. We wasn't pumping them up to win the MVP. What is the love affair that the world has with Luka Doncic that we just want to put him in the MVP conversation or want him to win the MVP? I'm just trying to figure it out.
Zach, I'll let
Zach Lowe, that was the guy that was the other guy on the panel. And man, I'm glad I cut that off right before Zach start spitting out his vomit. I mean, because his response to that was just so horrible. That was just crazy. He didn't even ask the question. But that is a good question that Kendrick Perkins asked, man. What is the love affair with Luka in the MVP, and why are they forcing Luka in the MVP discussion when he don't belong there? When has a player who is leading his team to no playoff? He's probably going to be in the play-in if he's lucky. But when has a team that was led by a guy didn't make the playoff was also in the MVP discussion? I don't understand it at all. They're continuing to force it down. Like, he's played himself out of the discussion. I understand where you make your projections before the season and you feel like, hey, man, the way he plays, he's going to have big numbers. And if the Mavs have success while he's having these big numbers, it's going to be a good argument for him for MVP. And I agree with that. With the way they play, that offense is pretty much the D'Antoni offense that Harden was running, and Westbrook did it in OKC Thunder with Billy Donovan. It's basically that offense where you give your best player the ball, you make him the point guard regardless what position he plays, regardless what his team around him is. Even if you got a pure point guard beside you that's good enough to start, he has to play off the ball to allow your best player to be the point guard and the primary scorer. That's the D'Antoni offense. I'm giving my best player the ball. We're running high screen and roll, and you either going to go get a layup or you're going to pass it to a shooter for a three. We're not going to have any centers in the paint. The paint's going to be wide open. We're just setting screens for you all day long. You get to keep the ball as much as you want to. It's impossible for you to have your best player in that offense and not have huge numbers, right? I've already explained that. The link for that video is going to be in the description. But my whole point is Kendrick Perkins made an excellent point. Why are we forcing Luka in this conversation? And I want to do this blind reveal, right? Since we're not, since we're moving the goalposts on what the MVP is, we used to give more credit to guys who had their teams playing the best basketball. So the guys who team is number 1 in the league, number 2, number 3 in the league, at least number 1, 2, or 3 in your own conference, right? But we're bypassing all of those guys like Jason Tatum, who got the Boston Celtics with the best record in the league, or Devin Booker, who has the Phoenix Suns with the second best record in the league. We're bypassing all those guys. We're bypassing Giannis. We're bypassing Jokic. All these guys have their players or had their teams playing top level basketball, playoff basketball. We're bypassing all those guys and jumping all the way down to the team that's number 11 in the West to make a MVP case for, right? So since we're moving the goalposts and changing it, and we're grabbing guys with teams playing 500 basketball, I'm gonna do this blind reveal. All right, so here's a guy. One has played 20 games. He's missed some games. Then the guy on the bottom has played all 23 games, right? One's averaging 33 on top, one's averaging 30, right? 8 assists, 8 rebounds for one on top, 7 rebounds and 5 assists for the one on bottom. As far as the shooting percentages of the one on top is 50%, the one on bottom is 55%. That's significantly better. The one on the bottom also shoot the field goal percentage for 3 is better at 35% versus 33, and the free throw percentage is lights out better than the one on the bottom. As a matter of fact, on the top. As a matter of fact, the one on the top has missed key free throws in the clutch that has lost their team game. Also, not to mention the team up top, led by that player, has lost 4 of their last 10. They're 4-6 for their last 10. And the one on the bottom has won their last 3, and they're 6-4 for their last 10. So they're even hotter for their last 10 games and going on a trajectory of playing winning basketball. Also, the one on the bottom has played 8 games without his number 2 star. Right. So I'm gonna go ahead and reveal who those guys are, and it is Luka Doncic on top, Kevin Durant on bottom. Right. No one's discussing Kevin Durant in the MVP discussion, and even with their offensive numbers looking the way they are, Kevin Durant is also playing phenomenal defense where Luka Doncic is not playing defense at all. Kevin Durant's team is 1 game above 500, Luka Doncic's team is one game below 500, and number 11 in the West, Kevin Durant has his team in the playoffs picture at number 8 in the East, right? So you got a team and a player playing playoff basketball, playing better basketball over the last 10 games, right? Shooting percentages is exponentially better, right? He's played all the games. He hasn't missed any games for being out of shape like Luka has, right? And he's played 8 games without his number 2, right? All those things going for him, but yet we have Luka in the MVP discussion, and I still don't understand why. Right? The last thing I'm gonna say before I get out of here, I'm gonna play a clip from when Mike D'Antoni uttered the words that James Harden was the best offensive player he's ever seen in the league ever. He said he's the best offensive player that the league has ever seen. He said this when he was coaching James Harden in Houston, right? And we get that coaches was, they will say things about their players to boost them up for whatever reason. I don't know. Billy Donovan said the same thing. He said Westbrook was the best point guard ever because he averaged a triple double. Like, they say things like that, but here's the guys on ESPN's response to it. Or not ESPN, was it Fox? Guys on Fox, Skip Shannon and Chris Broussard. They're responding to it. This is Chris Broussard, what he had to say about it. I'm gonna play that, and then I'm gonna give commentary, and then I'm gonna leave.
Now, here's the thing people are missing, and I think Harden should be unanimous MVP, because I don't see how you put anybody ahead of him this year. But what D'Antoni, I don't want to say is missing, because like you said, he's backing his player. This system it takes you to another level offensively. Your numbers. Steve Nash, with all due respect, I don't even think he would be a Hall of Famer that he's going to be if he hadn't gone to Mike D'Antoni, let alone 2-time MVP.
Yep.
Chris Duhon looked very good in this system.
He did.
Ray Felton averaged 17 and 9 for Mike D'Antoni. Jeremy Lin's 2-month run of dominance was under Mike D'Antoni. So you put James Harden in this system, who's better than any of those guys, and that is where this extra uptick has come from. I would love to see Chris Paul by himself in this system. I think his numbers would be huge. If you put Steph or LeBron, Steph's a great passer. Steph or LeBron or even KD, put the ball in his hands in this system.
LeBron would average 15 assists a night in this system.
Yeah.
And look.
So that's what Chris Broussard said as a response to D'Antoni saying James Harden was the best offensive player the league ever seen. And what he's explaining is D'Antoni's system, which is a system where you don't have a big man or a post player clogging the lane. So that's number one. D'Antoni likes to have his big man either be a 3-point shooter or his big man be a screen setter that can slash or, screen and roll like Amari Stoudemire was able to do with Steve Nash, right? Or like Clint Capella was able to do with James Harden. But nonetheless, Mike D'Antoni likes his big man outside of the paint. He wants the paint to be wide open so his best player can drive the hole without a shot blocker down there. Because if my big man is at the 3-point line, then whoever is guarding him is also going to be at the 3-point line, or they're going to take him out of the game completely and put a smaller guy in that can rotate a little faster, right? So that's D'Antoni's system, no big man in the paint. Then number 2 is give my best player the ball, set screens for him, high pick and roll action, let him get downhill with a head full of steam for a layup. And if they rotate to stop the driving lane, then my best player is also capable of making the pass to the open player for a 3. So that already locks your best player in to a lot of shots and a lot of points, and also a lot of assists, because everyone's getting their 3-point shot based on if he make the pass to them or not, right? And then once you add on the fact that he's not going to require his best player to play lockdown defense, he's going to be able to lollygag for rebounds as well. So that gives you your numbers: points, rebounds, assists, period. The only difference is when, at least when James Harden was doing it, the Houston Rockets had either the first or the second best record in the West, sometimes in the league. Right? They was at least playing top level basketball, playoff basketball. Right? So Steve Nash won 2 MVPs in that system. Harden won an MVP in that system. Even though they didn't play for D'Antoni, it was the same system in OKC with Westbrook. He won an MVP out of it. And now we're watching Luka Doncic play that same system. No real big man, right? Like Christian Wood might be the second best player on the team, and they don't even start him because the whole philosophy is I don't want nobody in the paint, right? And he's also capable of shooting the threes. But I mean, when you're not a pure 3-point shooter, that you don't want him for 82 straight games being your 3-point shooter. That's why it's always hit or miss, and it's always when they lose, it's like the players are not knocking down shots, or his team not hitting shots, or his supporting cast is not good enough. But this is the supporting cast you're picking because they fit that system of no one in the paint, set screens for my best player. He has the ball all the time, and when he passes it, you got to hit the shot. It's just unfortunate that more people don't know basketball enough to look at that and say this is exactly what it is. Not even the guys that's on TV. I think some of them do know, but you know, their job is not to really just, you know, talk basketball where it actually is like real. Their job is really to entertain, to be part of the entertainment, be part of the show. You know, NBA is providing the entertainment factor on the floor. And the analyst's job is just to tell you what you're seeing and, you know, give it and feed it to you in a way where it's going to be, you know, I don't know, something that you keep coming back for. Right. So, I mean, that's all it really is. I mean, they're not going to get out there and say, look, nah, Luka ain't the MVP. And I'm going to tell you why. They're not really going to do that because it don't keep people coming back, you know. So it just goes with the agenda. And for some reason, they want Luka to have it. And we'll see how that works out, man. But that's all I want to get on here and say, man. I'll see y'all on the next one. Let me know what y'all think, man. Is the NBA force feeding us a narrative that Luka Doncic should be in the MVP discussion, or do you think he rightly deserves to be in the MVP discussion over people like Devin Booker and Jason Tatum? So let me know in the comments, man. I'll catch you on the next episode.